first of all, welcome. We hope you enjoyed our service and especially the presentation that went with it. Hope you'll learn a little bit about Judaism and what it's like in real life as opposed to just some of the theory you read. You're in the world religions class, is that right? Okay. So you studied Judaism yet or not yet? Yeah. All right. So you got to have questions. Let's forget about that flat thing on the book that doesn't come to life and the kind of stereotypes of whatever. Anything you want to ask. You want to ask about Jesus and Jews. You want to ask about afterlife. You want to ask about why we believe that, why we believe that. Judaism's all about questions. You get the right questions, the answer just kind of comes. It's about deeds, not so much faith. Faith may come, it may go. It's what you do to change the world. So we'll start with that and ask whatever you like. Shoot, anybody. You can field them. Just speak so everybody can hear you.
What's the difference between temple and synagogue?
All right, the difference between temple and synagogue. For some people, you know how it is. Some people it's very meaningful because it makes a certain distinction that's important to them. Other people don't care much about the distinction. And the distinction is this. There were only 2 temples in Jerusalem. There was the one built by Solomon and the one later on built by King Herod and so on. The first one was destroyed. The second one was destroyed by the Romans. And those were the only temples that were built. After that, there were many temples or synagogues that were built in the diaspora, not in Israel, not the original temple, which were kind of replicas, but not the exact thing that they hoped to rebuild. So instead of confusing the temples in Israel in ancient times with the ones we have now, some people like to make the distinction by saying this is a synagogue, a little house of worship, as opposed to the temple, and others say it's really a meaningless distinction, that religion is always in the process of evolving and changing, and that was kind of the original form, and this is the form that it takes now. And there's nothing any less inauthentic about this as that.
So the way of worship between the temple and the synagogue is the same, like the way you guys worship?
All right, again, if you're making that distinction between temple and synagogue, in the temple of old, worship was in the form of sacrifices that you read about in the Bible we share. You call it the Old Testament. For us, it's not old because it hasn't been replaced. There's nothing new for us, so it is the Bible. It's called the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Our entire Hebrew scriptures are called the Tanakh. The Torah, Nevi'im, prophets, Ketuvim, the writings. So, if you read about the sacrifices, those were the prayers of the day. You bring something important of worth to you. You come together with the community at the house of God, and you offer this food to God and to the priests that work there. Today, instead of animal sacrifice, we've gone from actual sacrifice and killing to sacrifice of the heart. And sacrifice of the heart is prayer. So it's kind of, Maimonides saw it as an evolutionary type step. Most Maimonides was a physician, a rabbi, kind of lived in medieval times, somebody that was an authoritative figure that did commentary on the Bible and on all our Holy Scripture. What he said was, you don't go from paganism and sacrificing human beings to all of a sudden praying. There's got to be an intermediate step. The intermediate step was getting away from sacrificing humans to sacrificing animals, then getting away from sacrificing animals to the prayer of the heart, the prayer of the lips. Go ahead, help me out here.
Any questions? Any questions?
So why do you wear yarmulkes?
Okay, so do you have a computer?
Yes.
Do you have who has an iPad? Who has a phone with a calendar on it? Who has a Google account where you got a calendar on it? Whatever it is, okay? We got a lot of stuff to do. Whether it's getting to school on time, getting together with your friends, getting your homework on time, doing your religious thing, whatever you do. It's really easy to forget, mixed up, get the wrong day, not know what you're supposed to do. So there's ways of keeping track. There's Jewish ways that help us to remember the things we have to do. We have a lot of obligations of Jews to our fellow human beings and to God. How do we remember them? We wear something that says it's different. So it already makes you different. It says, think for a moment of why you're different. What attaches you to God and what's above and around you. And it's also like a sign of respect. If you look at the doorpost over there, it's kind of hard to see. Left-hand side, there's that piece of metal. It could be a piece of ceramic, a piece of tin foil. What counts is not what's on the outside, but what's on the inside. On the inside is Deuteronomy 6:4 and following. It says, Shema Yisrael, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and soul. How do you love God? Not just by, gee, I have this great feeling of love that's bursting from my heart, which is fine, but it doesn't do a lot for the world. You love God by, it says, be mindful of all my mitzvot, all the commandments, all the things I told you to do, and do them, because it's a broken world. I gave you a toolkit to fix it. Here's the toolkit. Work with me. You may take 2 steps backwards and 1 forward, but together we can make a better world. So I have all these little obligations, from prayer to visiting the sick, to rejoicing with the bride, to study, to community, etc. How do I remember them? I remember them by this reminder, I remember them by that reminder, and I know some of your priests may wear that garment, we call it a talit, that fringe garment around. It means something different from them. What it means for us is there are a bunch of knots and there are a bunch of fringes. They add up to 613. We believe there's more than 10 commandments. Read in your Old Testament, anytime it says, and God commanded Moses, or the children of Aaron, or the children of Israel, or Aaron, anytime it says, and God commanded, and there's plenty of those outside the 10 commandments, that's a commandment. They also said, the rabbis, that God gave an oral law to Moses, not just a written law, not just a constitution, which that is, but interpretations and things for the future. So the rabbis sat together, and they put together something called the Talmud, which was the oral law, and it had many, many more commandments, and when you add them all up, they're like 613. But don't worry, because we really don't have that many. 2/3 of them are probably, or 1/3, had to do with sacrifice and the old temple and the stuff we talked about in the beginning. The rest of them have to do with serving God, your fellow human beings, and making a better world. Yes?
Friday night and Saturday like the day of worship.
Why is Sunday the day of worship? I'm going to turn it around. Why is Sunday the day of worship? Because they said?
Jesus said rest and be happy at first of the week.
Yeah, did he say do it on Sunday?
No.
Okay, so why Sunday? Good. Is it the first day of the week? If you look at what you call the Old Testament, it says, and God created on the first day. And if you count, who said Sunday was not the first day of the week? I mean, Christianity came and changed things, and you may see Monday as the first day, but originally, Sunday was nothing. It was the first day of the week. And as you count Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Yom HaShishi, 6th day, and then at sundown becomes the 7th, which is the Sabbath. So instead of, when you think about it, you say, what's so special about midnight where it makes it the next day? It doesn't get dark at midnight, it's dark before that. It doesn't get light. It's kind of an artificial time. They could have picked 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I don't know what's behind that. You'll have to study why they did that. Judaism said when the sun goes down and it gets dark, it's the next day. I know it's Friday night, but on the Jewish calendar, it's Saturday until the sun goes down again, and then it's Sunday. So we go by the original biblical prescription of God rested on the 7th day and made it holy and asked us to rest as well. Say something about Jesus and why we don't believe. Afterlife, I don't care. Open it up. Yeah.
All right. I was wondering, is there like still, when the kids grow up, do you teach them to like try to forgive like the German people, like Hitler and everything that they've done? Do you try to have them like...
Absolutely not. Surprises you a little bit, right? Yeah, we're a very forgiving people. We believe in forgiveness. Our whole High Holy Days, the most important service of the year, is all about sin. You didn't hear too much about sin, you heard nothing, probably. Not that we don't believe in it. You didn't hear too much about forgiveness. Not that we don't believe it. We focus on it during the High Holy Days, where you get thousands. So if we focus on it, why did I get in the camera's face and say no? Forgiveness is, first of all, a process. It's called tshuva. It means turning away from evil, turning towards good, turning towards God. There are steps in forgiveness. There's, first of all, you have to recognize that you did something wrong. It's kind of like AA. They took it from us, right? You got to recognize and say, I did something wrong. That sounds real easy, unless you happen to go to Al-Anon or AA. And what's the first step? I'm an alcoholic. I'm not. But I'm saying that's what they say. I'm a drug addict. You got to understand, it's easier to make excuses than to admit that you actually are that. It's a lot easier to say, yeah, on occasion I do drugs, I do alcohol. It's what kids do. That's what everybody does. And there's nothing wrong, except for I have to do it about 10 times a day. And if I don't feel right or whatever. So first you admit it. And second of all, that's not good enough. Second of all, you have to say, if the circumstances to do it again come up, I won't do it again. Third of all, you may only have to go to God and say, God, I'll say 10 Hail Marys or whatever you have to do, okay, to get forgiveness. For us, it's not good enough to go to God if I harm one of you. I don't mean to use violent metaphors, but if I came up and just socked one of you out of the blue for no reason, all right? I'm sure that hurts God. God will get over it. God's real strong, all right? I don't know if you'll get over it. I don't know if you're going to understand why I did something stupid like that. I got to say, you know what? I'm an idiot. I just hurt one of you. If I have to go to jail for that, I got to go to jail. If I got to pay a fine, I got to pay a fine. Whatever the law is, I have to somehow make it up to you. There's a problem. And then once I make it up to you, and you say, I forgive you, then I'm forgiven by God, as long as I don't do it to you on purpose, at least, again. And I try to say straight, as best as I can, on the straight and narrow. However, when we're talking about forgiveness, we're talking about normal human situations. When you take something absolutely crazy like the Holocaust, and you take it out of the norm, where there's mass murder, where there's a program of genocide, what am I supposed to do? Go to the 6 million dead and say, first of all, somebody's got to say, I'm sorry. If you're part of being a Nazi, is being evil. It's not being sorry. I'd like you to show me a true Nazi that ever said, gee, I'm really sorry, I want to apologize to the Jewish people. Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the final solution, said at his trial when they captured him in Jerusalem, I will go to my grave dancing and happy that I killed 6 million. He wasn't sad, he was true to what he was, a Nazi. So they, first of all, didn't ask forgiveness. Second of all, let's say they asked my forgiveness. How can I give my forgiveness for the dead and the family and the suffering? And how do I know it's real forgiveness? How do I know it's not a deathbed confession? How do I know they're not just afraid that the Allies have captured them and hurt them as well or imprisoned them? I'm going to leave the big stuff, that kind of stuff, to God. I have no power to give anyone forgiveness for acts of mass murder and genocide, and I would not. Good question. First time I heard that. Sorry? Anything else?
Afterlife.
Afterlife. So, if I asked you what you believe in the afterlife, is there anyone here that would say, I don't know, nothing? You would say, I don't know. That's good. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Anybody have questions about it, probably? All right. In Judaism, there are very few dogmas. There's one dogma. God is one, invisible, never took human form, and indivisible, can't be broken into parts. One is one. One is not 3, one is not 10, one is not 12, one is one. So that's the reason why Jesus for us can't be God. So I'll answer that question along with the afterlife question. That's kind of our dogma, that there's one God, you should love God. After that, much of it is speculation. I don't know anyone that went to that afterlife, if it exists, came back and told the story. There's a lot of people like Dante who wrote books from their imagination, and if I read my Bible, there are some suggestions that there may be something afterwards. It may even make sense that if this world isn't fair, that things are made up somewhere else, maybe in an afterlife, but I don't know for sure. So Judaism says, look, you study it. We have plenty in Judaism about afterlife, no dogmas. It goes from resurrection of the dead in body and soul. You might say, so with Jesus in that story, why was it that his body had to resurrect with his soul? Why couldn't the body have gone to wherever it went? And the soul came and somehow spoke to us or showed us or whatever it was? Because he was Jewish. And the one authentic Jewish belief for afterlife, the rest were probably borrowed, was resurrection of body and soul. It's no miracle if God can make something that's already eternal, your soul, come back to life. It's eternal. It never died. But if you can take something that's matter and goes back to the earth and is recycled and bring it back with a body, that's kind of something only God can do. And you're taking something that's not eternal and making it that way. So it would make sense that if you were talking about Jesus coming back, that it would be a resurrection in body and soul. And we believe that at the end of time, when it's the Messianic era and things are good, that all the righteous of the world will be resurrected and come back in body and soul, if you want to believe it. Now, some people, we didn't give all the ideas to the world. Sometimes we borrowed from the world. So from the Greek and Roman philosophers, some of them said the body just goes back. It's only the soul that's eternal. But some Jews will believe that only the soul is eternal. Some will believe in reincarnation, which is absolutely fine. Some will believe that we're worm food. And you may not like that, but here's the example I always give. So, you got an aging grandparent, right? Grandparent can't shovel the snow anymore, can't even use a snowblower, can't mow the lawn, can't do anything. I can say, Grandma, you know, $50 every week. I'll come, I'll take care of the leaves, I'll take care of the lawn, I'll snowblow everything. If you need extra because there's a lot, I'll take care of it. I can also say, when they say, hey, let me pay you for what you did. Come on, you're my grandmother, my grandfather. I love you, I wish you could do this, you can't. It's my pleasure to do it. Do I do something because I get pie in the sky when I die, or a reward? Or do I do it because it's the right thing to do? I do it because it is the right thing to do. If God came down this very second and said there is absolutely nothing after you die, I am not going to become a rapist, a murderer, a thief, whatever. I will be exactly what I am because it's the right thing to do whether I get rewarded or not. And so we concentrate on this life, being the best we can, working with God to repair the world, and whatever God has in store for us, that's what God has in store for us. We're happy. Yes? No, we don't believe in original sin. Think about it for a minute, okay? If you weren't taught, go back to before you were taught. Rewind the tape, right? Hopefully nobody's had babies here. If you did, you know, I hope things are working out for you and all that. But anyway, if you did, or if you've seen a grandchild of one of your parents or something, okay? Or you've seen a newborn baby, you just saw one tonight. You're going to look in a crib and say, oh my God, look at this piece of sin. I better rush them right away over to some water or something and make them okay. I'm trembling at how sinful they are. Why are they sinful? Because of some story in Genesis 3,000 years ago where Adam and Eve, I don't even know if they sinned, they disobeyed God. So now this kid is now responsible for what they did and is full of sin. I'm sorry. We say every morning, the soul that you have given us, oh God, is a pure one. I.e., to paraphrase a cartoon I once saw, God don't make no junk. It said God breathed God's breath into us and there was life. Does that mean there was life and in that breath of God is some sin too? Then God did it. Forget Adam and Eve, okay? So it doesn't make any sense. Let's say it did make sense. God said the world is getting messed up. Oh, look at Adam and Eve, and then you got Lemech who kills a bunch of people and is happy with it, and then you have all the people leading up to Noah, 10 generations going downhill, one getting worse than the other, okay? So first of all, instead of just blaming Adam, blame any of the other ones who made Adam look good and Eve, okay? They did nothing, the other ones killed. God said, I think I made a mistake. I'm going to start the world again. I'm going to take one righteous person who seems to be Noah. And I'm going to destroy the world, and I'll take a few animals and his family. And we're going to start from square one again. We'll start all over again, and everybody that comes from him will be righteous. Now in the end, Noah ends up getting drunk, and people take advantage of him in a not good sexual way and all that. If you want to do some kind of a sin, then say we're all sinning because of Noah. But the sin of Adam was wiped out with the flood. So either way you take it, can't believe in original sin. Which leads me back to the Jesus question. If I am created pure, and I, for whatever reason, choose to sin or do something wrong, it wasn't something that I'm born with, that I need something extraordinary to shed blood for, come down from the sky for, give their life for. I have to go through that process that I talked about recognizing it, saying I'm sorry, making restitution, making sure I don't do it, and take any punishment that's coming my way, and then I'm forgiven for that sin that I created for myself. So that's how we see sin, and recovering from it. Anything else? Gee, I think we covered all that. By the way, please understand, we are a religion that doesn't believe in insiders and outsiders. I would never come to you and say, I have to convert you. I need to save your soul. You're going to burn in hell. I don't care if you think that about me. I can live with that. That's fine. We believe there are many paths to the one God. Some people need a visual path to see something that looks human and understanding in that way. Others can say, I don't know, God is other than human. There's nothing human about God. I use that language because I got to talk to you. But when I say God's arm, I don't mean God has an arm. I just mean God's strong. When I say God's face is smiling, God doesn't have a face. It just means God showing you grace however God shows it. Okay? So, again, for us, God is invisible, indivisible, but that works for Jews. It may not work for everyone. If the Quran works for you and it's teaching you peace and you're not killing anybody, if the New Testament works for you and you're helping to repair the world, however you do that with faith, with your belief, with Jesus, God bless you. This is the way we do it, and we believe that God's face shines on everyone who serves them in their own way, as long as they're not hurting other people.
Why don't we end there? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to let them off the hook. They were very good.
All right, I appreciate, really, that you said it. You guys are wonderful. You're amazing. I don't know. It's obvious I kind of have a lot of energy and stuff. I certainly can't sit now. When I was your age, oh God, I'd be on the ceiling by this time. So thanks for being as good as you are, and keep coming back. If you're interested, I'm always happy to, if you want to discuss anything further. Not conversion stuff. You're confused about what we said. You thought about it. You have some questions that you forgot to ask. Just give me a call, come by, whatever it is. Be happy to discuss as a group or individually anything you'd like.